Welcome to People, Power, and Politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's People, Power, and Politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.
As New York City gets up for a critical mayoral race, State Senator Zellnor Myrie is stepping into the spotlight with a bold vision for a more just, affordable, and inclusive city. A Brooklyn native and the son of Costa Rican immigrants, Myrie has built his political career fighting for tenant rights, criminal justice reform, and voting access. In this interview, we dive into his motivations for running, his plans to protect immigrants and marginalized communities, and how New Yorkers can get involved in shaping the city's future under his leadership. Welcome, sir. Such a pleasure and honor to have you here with us.
It's great to be back.
You're very welcome. So, you've made a name for yourself in the state Senate as a bold progressive voice. What inspired your decision to run for mayor of New York City now, and what do you believe City Hall needs that it's not getting today?
Well, I'm a proud son of two Costa Rican immigrants. My parents are from the Caribbean part of the country, and I was born and raised here. The reason that they came to New York City was for opportunity. My parents came here to work. They came and worked in factories, both of them, so that they could put food on the table. They sent me to the city's public schools. I went to PS 161 in Crown Heights. I went to Brooklyn Tech for high school, went to Fordham for undergrad and grad school. I went to Cornell for law school, got to work at one of the best law firms in the world, and then I got to run for state senate to represent the same communities that I was born and raised in. That's the New York City story. That's why people come here. That's why people stay here. And that opportunity is lost for many New Yorkers today. I think about my own family and trying to figure out how I'm going to put down roots in the neighborhood that I grew up in Central Brooklyn. And my wife and I, like many families, are trying to figure out the path to home ownership, but it feels impossible. You think about raising a family in the city, and the cost of childcare feels impossible. And instead of having a city hall that has been squarely focused on solving these problems, we have not. We have had a city hall that has been incredibly distracted, to put it charitably, and in the interim, New Yorkers are suffering. So I want to deliver for the people of this city. I want to make us the capital of opportunity once again, and I have a couple of ideas on how to get us there. I want to deliver 1 million homes over the next decade so we can bring down the cost of living and everyone can have a place to afford to live in this city. I'm a product of after school. My mom, like most New Yorkers, did not get off at 2:30 p.m., couldn't come pick me up, but I was in after school. It was a safe place for me to be. It kept me off the streets and also gave me a love for learning. I want free, high-quality, universal after school for everybody. That same opportunity provided to all of our young people and our working families. And I want to have a holistic approach to public safety. I want to return our police headcount to what it was pre-pandemic, but I also want to give our young people an alternative. I want to expand our summer youth program. I want to ensure that we are expanding the Every Block Counts program, investing in the neighborhoods that we know need the help to drive down the crime. And that's the kind of city that I want to lead.
Okay, excellent. So you mentioned about wanting to build 1 million houses. Will you commit to expanding rent control and building deeply affordable housing in all 5 boroughs? And how do you plan to overcome state-level barriers?
Yeah, look, this is, I don't say this just as a candidate. I say this as someone who was born and raised in a rent-stabilized apartment, whose families still live in a rent-stabilized apartment. I want to expand that. The building of delivering of 1 million homes over the next 10 years is going to include hundreds of thousands of units that are affordable. And we have laws on the books right now, like mandatory inclusionary housing, that ensures that we have that type of affordability, that rent regulation going forward. I plan to not just invest in the construction of those new units, but we also got to expand the protection. The city has a really good right to counsel program. It was a good start. This provides you with a lawyer if you are facing eviction, but it has never been fully funded. We have a program that does not have enough lawyers. I want to fully fund the right to counsel counsel program so that people facing eviction can go into court with counsel. I also want to expand it to our homeowners who are facing foreclosure and facing deed theft, who also need that assistance in the courts. So I am deeply committed to affordability. And, we're going to have some obstacles on the state level, not primarily because there are New York City legislators that are opposed to this, but there's some folks, some of our colleagues in the region who don't want to see more housing and who think that New York City should be solely responsible for building affordable housing. I don't think that's the case. I think that we have to make the case to all of the legislators that housing in New York City is a regional responsibility. And if New York City is doing better, if New York City is affordable, then people aren't going to be making their way out of the city and pricing out the other residents in the surrounding regions. The mayor has an important role. We live in the media capital of the world. I have a big bully pulpit. I'm going to be using that and building relationships to ensure that we have a collaborative approach to this housing crisis.
Okay, so let's take a look at public safety and police reform, which are often seen as being at odds. How would your administration approach safety in a way that protects communities without over-policing them?
This is another thing that I speak about, not just as a candidate and a state senator, but as someone who grew up in New York City, and I'm talking from personal experience. Most New Yorkers can hold two truths together at the same time: that police help keep us safe, and that they also should be held accountable. My mom was robbed at gunpoint when I was young. I was right with her in the elevator. Her worldview is informed by that experience. When she sees more police officers, she feels more safe. A lot of New Yorkers feel that way. She also has a son that was pepper sprayed at a protest. And I, as a state senator, had to sue the police department because of this. She doesn't want her son getting pepper sprayed. Nobody wants that, happen, right? No. But she still feels that police are a part of the public safety ecosystem. I think that's where most New Yorkers are. And that is why my public safety plan calls both for returning the police headcount to what it was pre-pandemic, but also increasing the resources for the Civilian Complaint Review Board so that they can hold police accountable when they do step over the line. But let's be clear. Public safety doesn't just belong to the police department. They need help. They can't do this alone. It's why we have to provide universal after school so we give our kids an alternative. It's why we have to build more affordable housing so that people have a place to be. And it's why we have to increase the strategies about driving crime down. My first job was a summer youth employment job, SYEP. Every single summer, we have kids that are on the waiting list for summer youth employment. If we just added 50 more thousand seats, it could be a universal program. That's what I want to do as part of giving our young people an opportunity, but it's also a public safety tool. I want to ensure that we are investing in the things that we know prevent crime, and that's why I also want to expand the Every Block Counts program. Right now, that's only in 2 precincts, and it's in some of the precincts that have the highest incidence of violence. The city goes in, deals with a lot of quality of life issues, has every city agency there prepared to meet that need. It is only in 2 precincts now. I want it to be in 7 precincts. I want to triple the reach so that it can reach everybody that needs it. The same 10 precincts have been number 1 in shootings for the past 40 years. This is a problem that we have made a choice to say this is okay. It's not okay. I reject that premise. But let's get them the help that they need. So I want to expand that Every Block Counts program as well.
Okay, so New York City is currently facing a deep affordability crisis, from rent to groceries to transit. We used to say the rent is too damn high. Well, the eggs are too damn high right now.
Yes.
What's your plan to make this city livable again for working and middle-class New Yorkers?
This is the number one issue that I hear about. And not only are the egg prices too damn high, the rent is still too damn high.
It is.
You think about what the average rent in the city is now. It's close to $4,000. Who has that? How is this going to be a city where you can, if this is your first apartment, get a good place? If you're looking to expand your family, get a nice place that has enough room? It feels very, very impossible in this moment. So my number one thing on the affordability crisis is that we need more housing, and we got to do it quickly, and we got to do it everywhere. We can't allow certain neighborhoods to say, we're not going to take the housing, and you got to build all of it in this particular neighborhood. Everybody has to shoulder some of this burden. That that is why I'm going to be invested from day one in ensuring that we have all the tools at City Hall's disposal to ensure that we're building fast and doing it in a way to provide affordability for folks. I also think it's important when we think about childcare. If you are a parent in this city, you are twice as likely to leave because you just can't afford childcare. $22,000 per kid per year. So it's why I want to expand pre-K and 3K, not just to end at 2:30, but to end at 6 p.m. so that working parents can have the opportunity to continue to work, to continue to put food on the table while also having this childcare. And listen, this pays for itself. We have seen in other jurisdictions where they provide this type of universal child care that the tax revenue alone helps pay for the program because people make different professional choices when they know that they have that child care. I also think it's important for us to provide pathways to jobs for our young people and for New Yorkers writ large. You think about some of the economies where we need more workers, whether that is healthcare or the green economy. For some people, that has been inaccessible because there's certain college degree requirements or just obstacles to them getting in. I want to change that. I want to bring down the barriers. I want the city to help pay for apprenticeships. I want the city to help pay for training so that these individuals, regardless of whether they've gone to college or not, can be on that pathway so that they can start earning these wages and make their way in these industries. So we got to build more housing. We need universal after school. We got to expand childcare, and we got to give people pathways to jobs.
Okay, so talking about, jobs, given the wage disparities outlined in the 2025 labor report, do you plan to raise the minimum wage to a living wage and ensure stronger protections for gig workers?
This is a conversation that is going to require the state and the federal government to come together and come to the table and figure out what the best pathway forward is. We have individuals in particular industries that are not making the money that they deserve. A lot of times, these are people that keep our city running. These are people that do the backbreaking work that allows for everyone else to continue to move on in the city. So that is something that we should be looking at, that we should be examining closely. I was proud to support the raise in minimum wage as a state senator that has been staggering and getting in, but we know that people are still not making enough. So we got to make a collective decision on how best to move forward there. We are in the midst of a hostile federal administration that is attacking worker rights, that does not care about the working people in this city and in this country. And in that time, we're going to need the city to stand up. So we have a Department of Consumer and Worker Protection that I plan to invest more resources in so that we can be proactive in outreaching to these types of workers to, one, let them know what their rights are, but to also let them know that the city has their back.
All right. So you released a Black agenda for New York City, which was absolutely brilliant. Mm-hmm. What does that agenda look like in practice, from economic opportunity to education to health outcomes? And how would you make sure it leads to real measurable change?
I say this as a Black New Yorker and as someone who represents a predominantly Black and Caribbean district. The city has to have our back. And we helped build this city. We help keep the city moving. And it is important that our policies match our rhetoric. One of the things that I want to do is to help with the passing of intergenerational wealth. And for a lot of us, that has been home ownership. And so I think that the city has the ability through the Housing Development Corporation and some other tools to help with some down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. The city has the ability to pour more resources into protecting people from losing their homes. I was proud to author the bill that made deed theft a crime. And we have had so many Black New Yorkers lose their homes and not be able to pass it down because of unscrupulous actors who have stolen their deeds. We have made that a crime, but now it's time to enforce it. I'm going to be pouring into that enforcement so people can keep their homes. You think about small Black businesses. My mom had a jewelry shop on Flatbush Avenue that she could only keep open for a couple of years because she didn't have access to capital. She couldn't navigate the city hall bureaucracy. She didn't know where to go to get this. I want to have a Black Business Accelerator Fund that is going to put money into these small businesses, and it's going to be more forward looking. Let's go and be proactive and talk to business owners and potential entrepreneurs and say, if you want to start a business, here's how the city can help you. Or if you have a business, here's how we can provide more support for you. You think about the status of our healthcare in New York City. I represent SUNY Downstate in central Brooklyn. You know that they try to close SUNY Downstate, and I was yelling from the rooftop saying, hell no, we do not accept this. We need world-class healthcare, and we won. Now, we still got to keep fighting, but there's more to be done. And from City Hall, I want to ensure that we are investing in Black health care because we already know what the rates are for our Black women who are giving birth. We already know that for our young Black men, they do not have access to mental health resources. They do not have access to therapy. So I want to invest in more birthing centers. I want to ensure that our Health and Hospitals Corporation is fully funded and targeted for our communities. And I want to invest in free access to mental health for our young Black men. This is something that I like to say all the time in public. I am in therapy. I would not be a good leader if I was not in therapy. I would not be a good husband. I would not be a good son if not for therapy. But I'm fortunate that I have access to that. And you shouldn't have to be lucky. You shouldn't have to be fortunate in order to get access to that. And I want to change that. You think about the Black neighborhoods that are in zones on the front line of our climate justice, places like Southeast Queens, places like Southeast Brooklyn that are potentially in the way of real serious climate crisis events that are already happening. I want to ensure that we're investing in those neighborhoods as well, making sure that we're building in the resiliency infrastructure. We just saw 2 weeks ago that Donald Trump pulled money that Congress had already allocated for New York City resiliency in places like Southeast Queens and Brooklyn and in Harlem. So we got to stand up to the president so that we can get the resources already allocated, but we got to be proactive as a city as well.
Okay, so I just want to expand a little bit on healthcare. What concrete steps will you take to expand healthcare access for undocumented and low-income workers in New York City? You know, one of the biggest disgraces of this administration was the allowance and insistence that ICE be let into our hospitals. I am someone who born and raised in Brooklyn. Both of my parents were not documented when they had me, but I had very bad asthma when I was young. They would take me to Kings County Hospital, and they would take me without fear that they would be deported because they knew that the city had their back and that you could get these essential services. So one of the most important things we have to do is make clear to New Yorkers and to this administration that we are not going to carry out your immigration policy. We are not required to do so by the Constitution, and we will refuse to do so from my city hall. But I also want to ensure that we're being proactive in outreach and letting this community know what services are available to them. This is a responsibility that if we do not take care of it on the front end, we pay much more on the back end. And I'd like for people to know that this city has their back. If you need that healthcare provision, we are going to be here to provide it. Talking about your city hall, when elected, what's the first big move you'd make within your first 100 days, and what would success look like by the end of your first year in office? That's an excellent question. So, I have centered my campaign on tackling the affordability crisis, particularly around housing. So within my first 100 days, I want to set up a tracker that is transparent, that people can go on and access publicly on what my development on producing more housing and preserving more housing is. I want to be setting up my interagency task force to say, okay, we're going to have weekly meetings on what we're doing on the housing front and ensuring that we are providing more housing so that people can afford to stay here. There's some things I want to do around gun violence. One of my public safety initiatives is to bring our clearance rate, and that is the rate at which we solve crimes. I want to bring our clearance rates for shootings all the way up to 100%. I want to solve every shooting. The only way I'm going to do that is by working with all of the public safety partners in this city. I want to have that task force set up within my first 100 days so that people can know exactly how we're going to get to clearing our clearance rate to 100. And I also, on our pre-K and 3K expansion, I want to ensure that we have a budget and a budget plan that is going to expand from 230 to 630 230 to
6 p.m. within our first year. That is something that I'm hoping that New Yorkers can hold me accountable to. I believe we can get that done within the first year of my administration, and then we can continue with providing after school for all in the next 3 years.
So you mentioned trackable and accountability. What mechanisms will you put in place to ensure your campaign promises are measurable, trackable, and enforceable once in office? How do we hold your feet to the fire?
Hold me to the fire. Hold me to the fire. Let me say this. Any leader, any politician that is not willing to get questioned by the people is not worthy of the office. And I've been really fortunate because I've represented the community I've been born and raised in for the past 7 years. And let me tell you, my constituents are not shy. They see me on the street, they see me in the barbershop, they see me on the train, and they say, Senator, and then they tell me about myself.
But they're seeing you.
But they're seeing me, and that is what's important. So I plan to do the same thing as the mayor of New York City. I want people to see me out and about. I want people to be able to come up to me and say, Mr. Mayor, what's going on with my schools? What's going on with my housing? There's an issue on my block. What are you doing about it? I want to be held accountable to the people. And, it's important also to be talking to the media and talking to the press, and not just the prestigious folks, but everybody. Our community and ethnic media, very important. For a lot of our people, this is where they get their news from. So it's going to be important for me to be returning time and time again to podcasts like this, where I get to communicate directly to the people and get questioned. I think that New Yorkers are very smart. They do not expect the mayor to be perfect. They do not expect their leaders to be perfect, but they expect you to wake up every day fighting for them. That's the expectation. And I'm going to walk with my head held high because I know I'm going to be fighting, and we're not always going to agree. That's okay. I think it's actually fundamentally New York to disagree. That's what we do. That's what we do. But we're going to talk it out, and at the end of the day, we're going to keep it moving so that we can do better for the rest of the city.
Okay. So I just want to touch on education and equity for a moment. Mm-hmm. We know that New York City public schools are the most segregated in the country. How would you address disparities in school funding and admissions while ensuring all neighborhoods have access to quality public education?
This is such an important question because I would not be who I am today without public schools. I'm a District 17 kid. I got lucky. In middle school, my math teacher said, I'm going to scrap the curriculum and I'm just going to prepare you guys for the specialized high school exam. And he did, and almost 70% of my class got into a specialized high school exam, and we were all Black and Caribbean. But you shouldn't have to be lucky to get that opportunity. This should be available to everybody, and your zip code should not determine the quality of your education. As you mentioned, we have too segregated a school system as it exists, and there have been some examples of breaking down those barriers. I'm thinking particularly in District 15 that took a lot of years of work with the community, listening to the parents, talking to the stakeholders, and they eventually got to a model that I think we could think about expanding across the city, working with the community to say, all right, how do we break down some of these admission barriers? How do we ensure that we're having a diverse set of admission policies where people can get in and families can get in? And what is happening is it's working. We are seeing that what people's worst fears were are actually not coming to fruition. I think we could be able to do that on a citywide level. And listen, it's not going to be easy. In fact, it's going to be very challenging and difficult. But if we do not take on these tough challenges in this moment, if we do not say, okay, the foundation of the rest of your life, public school, in the classroom is not given the full attention of City Hall, then what are we really doing? You think about the reading proficiency of our third graders. An indicator, as the data has told us, of what your likelihood to stay in school and to be successful is down the line. Our reading proficiency has been a source of embarrassment. And if there's one thing that I can point out that this current administration did well is investing in the science of reading and saying, let's focus on reading. That is something that I'd like to continue because I think that is going to have really, really game-changing results if we keep our eyes on the prize.
Okay, so we mentioned, you spoke earlier about being the son of immigrants, and we know that New York City is a city of immigrants. Given the current climate, the current administration in Washington, its war on immigrants, and the city's cooperation with ICE, now housed at Rikers Island, how would you as mayor protect and uplift immigrant communities across all 5 boroughs?
This has been such a personal issue for me because I literally would not be here, would not be sitting across from you now, if not for 2 immigrants. Our city would not be what it is without the immigrant community. And to have seen this mayor capitulate to Donald Trump, to be willing to carry out his policies and harm our city has been disgusting to watch. I'm also a lawyer, and I have taken up a couple of oaths to uphold the Constitution. I'm familiar with the Constitution, and the 10th Amendment of our Constitution says that we are not required to carry out the federal government's policies. I want to be very aggressive in using that 10th Amendment as the next mayor. In fact, I want to add 50 lawyers to the law department for a frontline protection unit to say that we will not yield. We will not carry out your illegal orders or policies. We are going to sue you in court, and we're going to do it every single time if it takes every single time in order to stop you. But protection and standing up is not enough. We also have to give people opportunity. And part of what I have proposed is something called Work.nyc, which is a New York City specific work permit. It says if you are here, you're seeking asylum, you can have the opportunity to get a New York City work permit and do what most people come here to do, and that is to work. Now, when I proposed this idea a couple of years ago, you know what this administration said? No other city has tried this yet, so we can't do it. I said, give me a break. Give me a break. This is New York City. What are we talking about? We got to lead. That's our responsibility. We got to step up. That's what I'm going to do as the next mayor. Come on, man. We lead the way. We lead the way. So that is something that I'd like to implement as well, so that people can have the opportunity to get to work. They know that the federal government is attacking them, but that the city is going to have their back.
Thank you so much. So ranked choice voting has been a game changer for New York City elections. How do you see ranked choice voting shaping the mayoral race, and what are your thoughts on its impact on voter turnout and the overall democratic process? You
know, ranked choice voting has been a game changer, and one of the really positive impacts of ranked choice voting has been that the conversation has centered more around policies and ideas, and it hasn't just focused on personality and taking shots at the other candidates. If you look at the tone of this mayoral race, you will see that it is mostly disagreements around how to get to an outcome and not attacking on the person. And that, I think, is a benefit because people, frankly, are tired of this type of politics. We get enough of that headlines. We get enough of that from watching the national conversation. Let's focus on the policies and the ideas. But for the listeners, you know, this is going to give you an opportunity to express your views on what is the future of this city. You can say, look, I really like what Zellnor is talking about when it comes to housing and after school, et cetera. And I also like what this other candidate is talking about on another issue. Let me rank them, you know, below. You know, I'm still the number one. Rank me number one. But, you know, you can rank them 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that that gives our democracy a better tone and a better efficiency in expressing what you'd like to see your government do. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation. You know, you have to appeal to a lot of communities and constituencies, and that's been really exciting as I've gone around the city and have been meeting a lot of voters who are talking to me about what their preferences are. And I've also seen it with the folks who have endorsed us. You know, there are people that have endorsed us number one. There are people that have said, look, I'm going to be putting Zellnor on our ballot, and that to me also signals to voters that you have some options, but utilize those options. Make sure you rank 1 through 5, and that, you know, I think is our responsibility in this moment.
So, Senator, for New Yorkers who are excited by your message and want to get involved, what's the best way for them to support your campaign, learn more about your platform, volunteer, or donate?
Excellent. So if you have any questions, you have feedback for us, you want to learn more about our policies, you want to volunteer, you want to contribute to our campaign, and let me just say on this note that New York City matches your donation. If you're a city resident, every dollar you give, the city will match it 8-1, and it does that up until $250. So look, if you've ever had a dream of being a big donor, this is your opportunity to do it. Really allows for small dollars to have an outsized influence over the process. And if you are interested in that or other things, please visit Zellnor.nyc. That is ZELLNOR.nyc.
And finally, why should you be our next mayor?
We are at a crossroads in the city. The decisions that we make over the next couple of weeks and months are going to have an impact on generations to come. There are people right now that are counting on us to step up for them in this moment, whether it is folks who are afraid of what the federal government is doing, or whether it is families that can't afford to stay here and have to leave. We have a unique opportunity, particularly with what's going on in the national environment, to say not in New York City. We will not stand for it. And we are, in fact, going to be an example of what it takes to lead, what it takes to provide opportunity, and what it takes to have courage in a moment where there's a lot of fear and anxiety. So I'm excited about this opportunity to represent the city that I was born and raised in, the city that has given me so much opportunity. I want to restore that opportunity for so many other New Yorkers, and that is why I'm hoping to earn your support.
All right. Thank you so very much, sir. As always, it's a pleasure and an honor speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to being back.
We look forward to welcoming you again. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
This has been Zellnor Myrie for New York City Mayor. As Zellnor Myrie's campaign for mayor continues to build momentum, he's calling on all New Yorkers who believe in a more equitable city to join the movement. Whether through volunteering, donating, or simply spreading the word, your involvement can help turn his vision for a better New York City into a reality. To learn more about his platform or to get involved, visit Zellnor.nyc. The future of our city is in our hands, and it starts with leadership that listens, acts, and delivers for every New Yorker. I am Pearl Phillip, and you've been listening to People, Power, and Politics.
People, Power, and Politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's People, Power, and Politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.